Hey everyone, I am Adam Crook. For those of you who know me as Captain Paladin here on the Super Paladin Bros channel. And welcome to my Project G for my Windows Server Pro class. I'm doing an informational video about how to create a virtual machine here using VMware, but I'm also going to be talking about a few other things, kind of running through a few things about virtualization, how it's become a new thing in the IT world, also in virtually everyday world coming up in near future. What's probably it's already here, but we are now actually entering a world of cloud technology and also a few other things about virtualization. Now that virtualization is now taking hold on both gaming and PC operations. So in this video, I hope to demonstrate my skills on my knowledge about virtual machines. I hope everyone will enjoy this video, and away we go. Now, just before I get into actual demoing a virtual machine, I want to talk a little bit about what is a virtual machine and what is the actual function here in the IT business, and also virtually what may be the future of PC and how we manage and use the operating system we know as Windows and Linux and perhaps even Apple. So I'm here to talk about that. First of all, what is a virtual machine? Well, basically, the simple definition that I can think of is a machine inside of a computer machine architecture and its software operating inside another computer. So virtually what it is actually doing, you're actually emulating an operating system inside a host computer. So it's kind of like operating computer operating system within a computer itself. You know, it has the same functions as a normal computer. Saying if you want to have a desktop with Windows 8.1 or Windows 10, well, you can actually emulate another machine with the same structure. As they say, operate a Windows 8 or a Windows 7 operating system within the same realm of a Windows inside a host machine that has Windows 10. So basically, but virtually in this day and age here, most computers and laptops have this kind of technology. Most of it's initiated through the BIOS system, where you actually have to turn on a setting where you can enable virtualization, where now your BIOS is now managing what is being run on your computer. Well, what does it really do? Well, basically it makes use of a computer physical assets and also its architecture to create a virtual environment for an OS. I mean, it's kind of like what an emulator does, but having a virtual machine, it's emulation, but it's not an emulator. I mean, there's a big difference between a virtual machine and an emulator. An emulator is hard-coded, scripting about a physical makeup of another computer. Say you can just virtualize the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's all of its physical components, its chip software. You can emulate everything about a Nintendo Entertainment System while you're and also emulate the game itself and its components. But what you're doing here, you're only messing with the architecture, using the assets that you have in your computer to emulate another operating system. I'm going to show you the big difference between a virtual machine and an emulator. Now, virtual machines, like I said before, it's an emulation, but it is not an emulator compared to what an emulator really does. But really, emulator really does, it encodes hardware into software form. So take this example. This is a Nintendo Entertainment System emulator, FCEUX 2.1.4a. What this is virtually you're having control of the NES system and its encoding parts, which you can actually configure, like the input, what you're using the input. I'm using a Xbox 360 controller for my gamepad here, which is not, it's more buttons than a standard NES controller. Also, you can also have a little more fancy features like a save state, which are kind of like in virtual machines, which we'll get into later. But we also have, you can change the GUI, you can customize some options with that. You can also, the timing of the video, you can adjust how the video is scaled if you know how to work with that. But that is totally, for you, the user, could experiment to get the best results of how you want the display to show in front of you. Also, we're going to go ahead and open up your ROM. Now, these are really ROMs from the NES games. You can find these online. There's a bit of controversy about the download of these files, because these are ROMs and these are copyrighted, and there's a big debate on who can use emulators. It's an infringement of copyright. There's a big gray area. That's another subject, but it's open. There's a lot of sites that you can actually download from. You can get these games. Some of them are not in. They don't sell on the Wii U Virtual Console or the Wii Virtual Console, but you can get them here and play them here on this current system right here. So you can go ahead. Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead and open. Let's say Mega Man 2. Go ahead and bring it open. This is one of the features, loading a state. You continue on for a certain point if you have to go away, like you couldn't do on a regular NES. I mean, there are some emulators that wouldn't allow save states. I mean, I know one on MSN or the Microsoft Store sells one for $4.99 it's like a Windows 10 version. It works well with Windows 10. You can download here. You don't have to do this. You can actually use you can play a game. Screw that. We're just going to use the transportation here. Take the express route. Woohoo! You can see it just like that. That sounds pretty cool, huh? So, there's many wonderful things that emulation can do. And that using an emulator, there's many types. You can use one for DOS. There's one for various video game consoles, especially in PC gaming, where there's a lot of PC games where there's old time, like from the 90s, where it requires MS-DOS. There's DOSBox. That's another emulator. Virtually, you can emulate DOS games from. I mean, to us gamers, it's a treasure trove of retro gaming. So what we have here is basically a VM software. Now, these VM softwares, such as VMware that you see here, it's one of many programs that creates an environment for your Windows operating system. Now, it's not just limited to VMware. That's also the hypervisor, which is the Microsoft brand of VMware. It allows you to have an environment. It has its own script in terms of how you can actually use your virtual machine. There's also VirtualBox. Those are kind of open source environments which you can actually use different Windows systems, both past and present, so you can actually create the environment you choose. It's not just limited to Windows. You can use Linux. You can use various types of Unix. Also, if if your computer architecture will allow it, you might run some Apple. But you want to take into consideration that Windows and Apple run on different architectures. So your architectures must be compatible with the hardware within the computer. Now, why do you say that? Well, what a virtual machine does, it shares the assets of your computer. So, now, say if you have a 32-bit system, you can only use a 32-bit operating system whenever you use a VM, so to speak. Now, most of these virtual machines will run 64-bit, which is mostly recommended. But the only thing is, you cannot use 32-bit software on a 64-bit platform, because there are two different architectures, and you wouldn't be able to. The compatibility is just not there. So now we get to the virtual machine part of this demo. Now, first of all, in order to build a virtual machine, you actually need ISO, and you need it could come from any operating system, or virtually most kinds of operating systems. And for example, I mean, we got Windows here. This is Microsoft DreamSpark, and of course, if I'm a student at MATC here, and I have downloaded a copy of Windows, some of these Windows ISOs here. We got Windows 10, Windows 20, Server 2012, which is the program I use for most of my Windows Server Pro classes, and also I do have Windows 8 and Windows Server. That's the one I have, R2 right there. So you do need an ISO. Now these are licensed ISOs, so you can actually go ahead, but these do not come unless you're a student at MATC and enrolled in IT, because I don't know why, just because we're special, I don't know. But whatever the case is, let's go ahead and get to it. Now, I've worked with Microsoft VMware. There are many types of virtual machine programs you can use. Now, this is Windows 10 Education, which comes with Hypervisor. Hypervisor is basically, it has produced the capability of creating and running virtual machines along with computer here. So what we got here, but I work with mostly VMware because I'm licensed through DreamSpark, of course, and you can get DreamSpark off this site here, and go ahead and show it to you right here. The VMware, yeah, this is where you can get the Workstation Pro. I work with this at college, for all my most of my classes I've had, which is with Windows 7. I had to operate, the very different facets of Windows 7, and also Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012 R2, and that's what we use for our academic purposes. So this is actually Project C. When I had to do Project C of Active Directory, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to build a new virtual machine. So let's go ahead and, first of all, go ahead and create a new virtual machine. In 18 days, but we'll have to get a new one soon. Now, yeah, these evaluation periods are licensed through the Madison Technical College through the IT department. So these do not come cheap. That's for sure. I know that for sure. I think it's, from what I can tell, it's about a couple $1,000s. I'm not entirely sure. But here we go. Now I'm going to create. This is the wizard. This is the primary thing you'll be using when you have trying to set up a new virtual machine. This is the wizard that you'll be using to set this up. Now I'm going to go ahead and start a blank one. I'll go ahead and install the operating system later, but which is probably not far from now. You can create from different kinds of operating systems in use. And it's not just limited to Windows. There are Linux, there's Novell, there's Solaris, there's VMware ESXi. That's the kind of like a server management program I'm using in VMware Pro. And the ESXi 4, and there's ESXi 6. That's the one we're using in our ESXi class at the moment. We're trying to build a functional server and router and switch. So we're going to develop a Microsoft Windows program. So we can choose any one of these. I'm going to go ahead and do Windows 8, 64-bit Windows 8, because I'm going to demo the Windows 8.1. A little bit of nostalgic for all of you who are currently, Windows 10. I mean, Windows 8 didn't last very long. They had upgraded to 8.1. So virtual machine name, give it a name, anything you want. I'll say Paladin. Excuse me there. Paladin 8.1. Go ahead and give it a name. Now you can give it a location. Give it a location. You can put it anywhere you want. I'm just going to put this in a desktop. Create a new folder and rename it. That way I can go ahead and give it some reference right there. Paladin 8.1. That's where I'm going to send it to. It didn't work that time. And desktop. There we go. That's the one. Send it there. Okay. Now, here we can is where we set up the size of the hard drive. Now you can use as much hard drive space you think you need for these virtual machines. The only thing is you can only use what's available in your host drive. There's a difference between the host and the host drive and what the virtual machine can handle. Say if you have like 5 virtual machines, well, you're going to have to delegate the resources between your host computer and your virtual machines. So you can you have the option of storing a virtual disk in a single file or multiple files. Splitting disks may reduce performance. I don't think we're going to do it. We're just going to keep it as single file, keep it easy. Keep it at 60 gigabytes. You can always expand it. Customize the hardware. Now, before you do that, before we say finish, we want to go ahead and customize. Now, of course, you got the amount of memory here is what memory you can allocate for each virtual machine here. Now, you can only go up to how much you actually have for your virtual machine here. This is a 12 gigabyte desktop PC, but I don't want it to consume the whole 12 gigabytes, so I'm just going to keep it at 2 for now. And you can let it use the number of processors you can give for these for this virtual machine to use. Now you can actually get the ISO from the physical drive, which just does have a CD-ROM drive, but I'm actually going to use the image file that I have inside my computer. It's going to go to my desktop because that's where I have it. Right here, and STM ISOs. Go ahead and get the Windows 8.1. And this is kind of the ISO I'll be using. This is a licensed one, so you will still have to enter the license key for this to actually work. Otherwise, it's still a 30-day trial. The network adapter, I mean, you can. In my classes, I mean, I'm required to set up servers and connect it with a client machine. But what we're doing here is basically allowing the Windows 8.1 to use the settings from the host IP address. That way it'll just pass through and you can still access the internet from your virtual machine as well. So you can leave, I'm going to leave that as it is. USB compatibility, it'll connect it'll recognize the USB connection devices you have inside your that's connected into your computer at the moment. Sound card, you got all that. Of course, using a headset, it would still recognize my headset. Different sound card, so printer, we don't have any virtual printers, and of course, I'll automatically detect my TV. Now, you can add more stuff if you want to add another hard drive. You can also incorporate another ISO if you want, but really, there's really no reason to, just for this demonstration. We can just leave it as is for now. Alright, so now we can go ahead, and now that we have added the ISO to the ISO image file, it's mounted to the CD-ROM drive inside the computer now, so recognize the ISO once we boot this thing up. So let's see. Go ahead, advance. You can. All right. So now we got all the settings we want on this. I mean, it will only. This is the maximum space that hard drive will. This virtual machine will take. It will take 60 gigabytes of hard drive space inside the host hard drive. It will only use one processor and will only maximum use of 2 gigabytes of memory. So that is all set. Let's go ahead and power this thing on. Now go ahead and get it started. Now it runs this as normal setup as if this was a new computer being installed or Windows is starting up a first time from a bootable CD-ROM drive. This is no different. I mean, it's going through the same process that every time you get a new computer, you're going through the same startup process. So we go through the same process every time you start this up. Go ahead and install. Alright, so now since I have a legit key here, I am going to enter the key, but I'm not going to let anyone see it. So I'm going to enter the key and then I'll be right back. Cut that part out just for privacy's sake, but let's go ahead and now we can go ahead and accept the terms here. And since this is now it's showing us that we have to accept, of course, the EULA, I believe that's the end user license agreement. Alright, so since we're going to install Windows only, because this is on a tip, now this is a blank hard drive, or this is assuming this is installing on a blank hard drive. So let's go ahead and next. We want it to go there. Now this will go through the same process as if booting up a new computer. And this will take a while, so I will let this do this, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Now, one thing I want everyone to keep in mind now, since this is an actual PC we're starting up, this is virtually a new computer, as we're treating this as if it was a new computer. So if you shut it down, like up here, say if I wanted to shut it down right up here, see up here you want to shut down, suspend, or restart, you don't want to power off the computer by accident. It's almost like if you're just unplugging the system, and stuff like that will probably have disastrous results. And most things about these programs, the virtual machine programs, is that you can create snapshots. Now, one of the interesting things about that is that you can create a snapshot which basically takes a picture of the settings at a point in time when you take the snapshot. So it's kind of like a save state at an emulator. You saw me bring up a game in Mega Man 2, at a point in time where I was. This is about the same thing. It's nothing different. Take a snapshot. Take a snapshot right here, and it'll right there. You can just take it at a point in time of what the current configuration of the computer is at right at the moment. It's probably not a good idea to have it whenever it's just getting the files from the Windows emulator right there, but or the Windows ISO there, it's still installing. But yeah, you can create a snapshot and it'll keep that current configuration. So that's one of the big advantages of having a virtual machine, is that you can revert to previous snapshots and things will be okay if there's some errors. Unlike current PCs, it'll be very difficult to go backwards once you have like a virus or something. You want to get rid of a virus by going back to a period of time. Well, that virtual machines has that advantage where you can actually do that. Alright, so now it is completed. Now we have an active desktop. recognize it, but normally these kind of programs right here would pass through. I think it would create a virtual switch from the let's see what's going wrong here. Try from VMware, because that's usually the program we use, the setting we use for our server program, our server pro class. But if that's the case, it's not really any total loss, but you would still be able to access the internet from here. And voila, now you got a Windows 8.1. You can do whatever you want to this desktop, and you should be, now you have your functional virtual machine. So that is all I have for you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I am Adam Crook, also known as Captain Paladin of the Super Paladin Bros. And if you want to check out more my gaming site of superpaladinbros.com, it links to my YouTube page. And I do propose that I will be doing more of these how-to videos, but this is for a project, so I hope you guys enjoy. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!